Hey guys, what's going on? Welcome back to the Leading Edge Cricket Podcast. Today we're back and it's England Watch as we continue to work our way through the English cricket depth chart. If you've not listened to any of the previous episode, there'll be a link above or a link down below where you can go and listen to. We've done 2 episodes so far on this and we listed out the top 10 English eligible openers in county championship cricket, including the ones playing test cricket, so we can work out, hey, if someone's failing, who's the next cab off the rank? Done the same for number 3, and today we're going to break down the middle order. And there's a few caveats that need to be wrapped around this, right? Ben Stokes bats in the middle order. He is an all-rounder. He will fall into the all-rounder depth chart we create. A wicket-keeper who potentially might bat in the top 6 at some point won't be considered for this role because they will be part of the wicket-keeper depth chart that is going on there. It need to be said because Sam Billings has got an exceptional county championship record over the last few years. It needs to be said that he's not going to be a part of it. Ben Folkes won't be a part of this. Dawid Malan won't be a part of this, looking at our top 10 as an honourable mention for not getting into it. But it's quite interesting. I think the one fluid point we've got here, Rich, is Joe Root, isn't it?
Yes, absolutely. Basically, Joe Root can bat where Joe Root wants to bat. Gone are the days of, he should bat at 3. Oh, I want to bat at 4. Well, he's batting at 3 at the moment. Will he be batting at 4? We don't know. So Joe Root, we've got him at 3, haven't we? When we did the number 3 depth chart, he's number 3. But if he decides to be number 4, then he's number 4. So it ruins everything.
So essentially here, we're after a number 4 and a number 6. And Dan Lawrence is the current number 4 and Jonny Bairstow is the current number 6. So they go 1 and 2 in the depth chart because that's how depth chart works. You've got your starters and then you've got the rest of everyone that's going to fill in and be a part of this farm system. So if this is something you would like and you want to stay in tune with, there is us on Twitter. We're at Leading Edge Pod, and every single county championship game, one of us is tweeting out and we're doing England Watch where we're telling you which England players or potential England players are doing well. So you can follow us over there. Rate, review, subscribe. We're on every single podcast platform that you could ever need. And we are on YouTube as well. Rich, let's get stuck into it. Let's go Big 10 to start with.
Absolutely. Well, I'm glad you mentioned Dawid Malan because that is a notable omission, I believe, isn't it? So who's going to be in the list ahead of him, people are saying. Right, well, number 10, we have Tom Abell. One of the trio of Toms from Somerset. 28 years old, 98 first-class games, 5,258 runs, Rob. An average of 33.27, which we know from your stats is a very, very healthy first-class record at the moment. Tom Abell is number 10. What do you reckon?
Good, really solid cricketer over the course of the last few years. So when I'm talking about stats, I'll talk through the stats from 2019 through to 2022. And I'll use some terms like Performance Plus. And what Performance Plus does is it creates a league average. So 100 performance is a top 6 average county championship player. Anything above that is, hey, you're pretty good. Anything below that is, you need to improve. Otherwise, you might be looking for a different career at some stage. Harsh, probably true. Man, I sound like an idiot. Tom Abell is very, very good at cricket. It's 1,795 runs over the last few years at an average of 41. I'd take that and go, yeah, Tom Abell, you're very good at cricket. In that time, he's got 9 scores of 50 and above. 10% of his innings turn into a century, all which are above average. And he's got a 133 performance plus rate. So he's 33% better than a county championship average middle order player. I've ranked him in terms of just on pure numbers and performance, the 11th best player in county championship cricket over the last 3.5, 4 years during that time period. He's a great player. He's a good leader, Rich. We spoke about him in the top 3 list as someone that goes, oh, you know what? If he was 25 games down into his test match career and solidified in the England top 6, he's probably got future England captain thrown at his name somewhere along the lines. He's that sort of character.
Absolutely. That's one thing we talk about a lot. Obviously, with the Ben Stokes conversation, really shone a light on it, didn't it? We lack captain potential, which is why we like the likes of Tom Abell. We like the likes of Tom Haynes, that they are captaining their counties. Tom Abell is a captain. Very, very talented player. One probably thing I'm looking at with him, Rob, 150 not out is his high score, which he got last week. So he's in good form at the moment. But that's, you'd think somebody that's batted top of the order for that length of time would have a big, big score. Only, I don't want to say only, but 900s compared to 30 half centuries. So that conversion rate, should it be a little bit higher? That's the question. There's a reason he's down at number 10. He's not quite there, but if he keeps going, who knows where he might get to.
Yep, totally agree. Where are we going at 9?
We're going to Joe Clark. We know that this man is part of the conversation. Now, this season, his form hasn't quite clicked, has it? We know that. But he was on the reserve list, wasn't he, for West Indies? So we know he's on the list. Rob Key said he should be available for selection again. There's a more complicated conversation to be about Joe Clark, but that's not what we're talking about today. So Joe Clark, he is still only 25. He's going to be turning 26 very shortly. 97 first-class appearances, 5,760 runs at an average of 37.4. Better looking 800s here, 18 first-class hundreds and 24 first-class 50s. He needs to be more consistent. 61 not out yesterday in the last game that's just been completed for Notts against Worcestershire. That's the form he needs to continue if he's going to get up this list and be anywhere near this England Test side.
He definitely does, mate. Just putting a graphic on screen for those on YouTube. There's it doesn't show it. It shows that the average this year is 40 in county championship cricket for top 6 players. But generally, when you look at the previous years, the actual 3-year rolling average for a first-class top 6 cricketer is 33. Joe Clark averages 33 across the last 4 years, 1,795 runs, 550s, five centuries thrown into the mixer. Most of those centuries came in 2019, so it has been a barren spell. But like Rich was saying, he's part of the conversation that England want to have around who could potentially fill in the roles, and they wanted to take a look at him in the winter. And, you know, it's because he's a good cricketer. He scores runs well. Maybe his red ball form hasn't been good enough. I gave him a performance plus rating of 107 and ranked him the 29th best middle order batsman in the country over the last 3 or 4 years. So things could be better. What does he fall down in? His average isn't that good. His balls per dismissal isn't that good. But his strike rate is high. He's that sort of player where he's going to score quickly. He's going to take the game away from you if he gets in. He scored 200s in a single game back in 2019 as well, which has only been done 5 or 6 times over the last 3 or 4 seasons. His conversion rates to 50s pretty good, and his conversion rate to 100s are pretty good. England like it. He's not scared of anything. He's gone over the world. He's played T20 franchise cricket, which I know is not comparable to Test match cricket, and I'm wholeheartedly part of that conversation, and we have been constantly for years on this. But England like it. England like the fact that you're mixing it with different characters, different bowlers, different conditions, and higher quality of opposition across the world. And Joe Clark is part of that conversation. We've got him as 9, purely on a cricketing aspect going. He's a little bit down the pecking order, but he needs a good run to get himself into the team. Yeah,
purely on talent, he's much higher than this. He's arguably one of the finest players in county cricket that hasn't represented England at any level yet. Obviously, we know why, off-field issues, etc. We're not going into that today. We've been into that a few times recently because Joe Clark was part of this conversation when we was looking at number 3s as well, I believe, Rob. I might be wrong. We certainly spoke about him recently. He needs to improve his form, as simple as that. But he has been going around the world, and it does mean something. If you're coming up against the best bowlers in the world in franchise T20 cricket, whatever it might be, and you're performing, which he has done in the last couple of winters, he's got to be part of that conversation going forward. And I just think that this might be the start of a run for Joe Clark. Rob Key said he should be available for selection again. I think that's going to free things up, and I think we're going to see the best of Joe Clark as a cricketer. Right, let's keep it moving. James Bracey. Now, James Bracey is more of a number 3. Bats number 3 for Gloucester. Yes. Obviously, he's a wicketkeeper as well. He's in this list. As Rob said at the start, we're not going to include certain wicketkeepers, but he's in this list because, first and foremost, we think he's a top-order batsman, number 3. But I think maybe for England, he could settle in at 4 or 6, regardless of whether he takes the gloves. 2 test matches, didn't go particularly well, only scored 8 runs. We won't dwell on that for now. First class 57 appearances, 3,263 runs, a high of 177, an average of 35.85, 900s, 14 50s. Is James Bracey, should he be on this list in the middle order, or should we just be seeing him as a number 3?
Yeah, I do. His performance in county championship cricket is better than that of Dan Lawrence over the last 4 years, and Lawrence has been given a decent run in and out a little bit, but a decent run in the England team. He's only 24. He bats left-hand. He can bat at number 3, which gives you versatility. He can bat well against pace. He can bat well against spin in county championship cricket. He also has an excellent conversion rate to go in and score in 100. 9% of his innings, of 41 innings, have gone on and scored 100 in the last 4 years. That's 38% better than the league average of doing it, which is about 6%. So I think there's something really good about James Bracey. I feel he might have been given more time maybe if he was at a different county, which is a bit of an old school statement to say. But they like him. They bought him in for a reason. And he's going to be part of the conversation for a long time because he's young, he's good. And this year, he's gone and scored 2 centuries already. So he's off to a great start. He's got 4 centuries in the last 4 seasons, which I think has been the biggest downfall because 2 of them have come this year already. So it's good to see his conversion rate getting better. Good cricketer. He's going to play more games for England, whether people rate him or not. And I do rate him, and I think he's going to be okay. It was a difficult series to come in against New Zealand, best team in the world, went and won the World Test Championship. And yeah, what can you do? What can you do? You've not faced the likes of Tim Southey, Trent Boult, Carl Jameson and players like that week in, week out. Yeah,
he was a little bit scrambled as well, wasn't it? Because I think he was being brought in the team to probably bat at 3 or have the opportunity at somewhere in that middle order. And then he was given the gloves very late in proceedings, wasn't he? So not the best opportunity for him. I don't think he deserved any further run in the team at that point because he was completely gone. Scrambled, wasn't he? He's gone away, he's worked hard, he's come back. Resiliency. He might be a different player next time he gets an opportunity. The next man up, Rob, is James Vince, everybody's favourite. James Vince. He's 31 now. He's 13 test matches into a career, only 548 runs at an average of under 25, 3 half centuries. He's got a really good first-class record, though, over 10,000, getting on to 11,000 first-class runs at an average of just under 40, 27 hundreds and plenty of 50s. I think we spoke about him as number 3. I don't think he's a number 3 for England. I think he'd be better suited in one of these middle-order spots, whether it's 4, 5 or 6, depending on where Ben Stokes wants to bat.
I agree. I think he's better suited to a 4 or 6 in an international setting. He might do well at 3 or 4 in county championship cricket. Why do I say that? 35 innings in the last few years. He's 1,400 runs, an average of 41. That's fantastic. You're doing really well. There's a problem with centuries. There's only 3 centuries to his name during that time, which isn't, for me, good enough. And his balls per dismissal is 62.47. Now, you can negate that by saying he scores at a 65 strike rate, which is way above league average. But that amount of balls for a dismissal isn't quite going to transition into a test match career. And that's what we saw in the past. We saw him bat that period of time, get 20, 30 in test match cricket and nick off and nick off and nick off. And it was just a conveyor belt of nicking off. It doesn't matter how good his cover drive is. If he's going to get out playing the shot when he's in 20s or 30s, he's got to think about when he's playing it. So I think he is part of a conversation for an England team going forward, particularly if injuries or form or things like that come into the mixer. But he's not a number 3. That's why we had him quite low in our number 3 rank. But as a middle order player, I can see huge value into adding him into the team.
Yeah, absolutely agree. He's a name that will certainly be in the conversation. Twitter will never allow his name not to be in a conversation. He was even in the conversation of a captain, according to some people. James Vince will always be there or thereabouts. He's doing pretty well this year, having a relatively good summer, averaging over 40, isn't he? Not quite demanding a place yet, which I think represents where he is in this list. Certainly a talented player, but not quite the next cab off the rank. We're getting into it now, Rob. Next man up, Ben Duckett. Again, somebody we spoke about number 3. A lot of overlap here because we think a lot of players can bat in 3 or in the middle order. And again, it depends where Joe Root wants to go. The opportunity might not present itself at number 4 because Joe Root might be there. But Ben Duckett of Notts, he played for England back in 2016. He's got test appearances. He's got ODI appearances. He's even got 1 T20 international appearance, Rob. England loved him for a while. He only scored 110 in 4 test match appearances at an average of 15. 150, though. So he does have that to his name. First class average, 112 appearances, though, 7,275 runs, 282 not out top score. That's quality. And an average of 40.19, 134 50s. That's an impressive record. He's one of the more talented batsmen in English cricket. He's an aggressive batsman. Yeah. But I'm sure your stats will tell us that he doesn't get out. You know, he's not a James Vince. He's not getting out after 60 balls, is he? He feels like he bats longer, even though he has that aggression.
I'd say this year, 100%. He's had a really good year this year, mate. He's got consistency coming out of his ears. Last 4 years, 1,500 runs and 1,551 runs, an average of 43. That's fantastic. Balls per dismissal is 64. So it's low. It's below. It's above James Vince, but it's below. But again, it comes back to how do you play your game? His strike rate is above James Vince's as well. And in fact, it's the second best on this list. The problem Ben Duckett's had is scoring centuries. There's only 4 centuries in that amount of time. He scores every 10.53 innings is a century, which is a pretty good record. It's about 4th on this list. But there's just not enough centuries to go along with getting out early. That's been the problem for me. I gave him a performance plus rating of 128.62. He's good. He's a really good, talented batter. I don't think he's a number 3. He's the sort of guy I'd look in a test team and probably look at 6. Maybe look at 4 as well. Okay. Ideally, probably stick him at 5. I'm talking myself into numbers here. But, he's going to bat anywhere in that middle order, Rich. But he's not going to bat at 3. That's what it is for me. And that's why I think England like him. England's liked him for a long time. They like him in different formats. He will get used at some time, depending on form. If we have another woeful form like 2021, he's going to get a look.
And he deserves it. He deserves it in some format. To be picked so early and then put on the trash heap, basically. He's done really well. He's a very consistent performer, isn't he? And I think he deserves that opportunity. This season so far, Rob, 31 to start with, but then he followed it with 122 and 95. So we talk about not enough hundreds. Well, he was 5 runs off another 100 there. 54 in the next game, and then a 50 and 78 in the last game. Consistency. That's what we're asking for. As ever, go and kick the door down. Go and score a couple of more hundreds and demand your inclusion. One player next in the list, one player that I believe is starting to kick that door through is Harry Brook, 23-year-old Yorkshireman. He's really looking good. He's had 1 T20 international, hasn't he? First class, 51 appearances, 2,612 runs at an average of 33, 614 50s, but that doesn't tell the full story. This is a guy that's got 512 runs in the County Championship this season. He's about, I think, off the top of my head, he's about the 3rd highest run scorer, maybe 4th, highest run scorer at the moment, give or take. He's a man on the up. Really good scores. I'm just going to reel these off, Rob. 101, 56 not out. 84, 77 not out. 194. That is quality. This man is saying, pick me.
It is. It's amazing, mate. Because we sat on the podcast yesterday and we said, I didn't want him to be ready for a year because I felt like he had more holes in his game that he needed to work through. He's plugging holes. Like he's Mr. Polyfiller walking around, plugging everything going at the moment and coming out like absolute gold. He's got a performance plus rating over the last 4 years of 154.77. He's played more innings than James Vince. He's batted more times than Brace. He's batted more times than Duckett, more times than Ollie Pope, more times than Josh Bohannon in County Championship cricket. He is getting a wealth of knowledge over the last 3.5, 4 years. He's averaged 46.54. He's got 5 centuries, 11 50s to his name, 16 scores from 43 innings above 50. Huge amounts of consistency for a guy that's turned around and said, hey, I want to play multi-format for England at cricket. I rank him 7th in terms of performance over the last 3.5, 4 years. What weighs him up? What weighs him down? His average is superb. That's 37% above the league average. His 50-plus conversion rate, he gets to 50 every 37% of his innings. That's 68% better than league average. His 100 record is 11.63. That's 200%, 200 plus on the performance rating, which is 100% better than league average. What weighs him down is balls per dismissal, which is at 69. He scores at a strike rate very similar to Ben Duckett as well. So, you know, what's the difference here in terms of how they're doing? One, he's averaging more than Duckett and Vince by a decent margin. He gets out on league average rather than 8 to 10% lower than league average. And his also his ability to get in. Like, you know, it's a metric kind of what's a fail in cricket. And I might not have the right numbers in place, but I'm working on if you're scoring less than 10, that's a fail. I wouldn't say Duck's a fail. I'd say scoring less than 10 and getting out is a fail. He does that 200% better than league average. Only 18% of his innings he gets out for less than 10. So just huge amounts of consistency and growth through his game over the last few years because these numbers started here and the year-on-year trend just keeps getting better and better. So I just thought it'd be another year or two and can't deny it. He's the hottest thing in English cricket to fit into that middle order with an injured Daniel Lawrence.
Yeah, I mean, let's see where it all shakes out. I mean, as we get closer to that test series getting underway this summer, it may be that the likes of Harry Brook, maybe the likes of Ben Duckett are racing up this list and going past one or two others. But we've got two more to get through before we get to Lawrence and Bairstow then. So the next one we've got, maybe a little bit surprisingly, but it's Ollie Pope. He's not actually the next one up in our opinion. Ollie Pope, Oliver John Douglas Pope, to give him his full name. He's 24. His first-class record, 66 appearances, 4,500 runs, 274 high score, an average of 51. He's probably, he's the best county player, county batsman around, isn't he? But his test record just isn't good enough at the moment. 23 appearances, 1,000 runs, an average of 28.66, just the 100 650s. Ollie Pope, the county cricketer, he scores hundreds. He scores big hundreds. The test player does not sit side by side with the county player. There's a disconnect there. We don't know what it is, and that's why he's not in the team at the moment. And that's why I'm not sure if he will be in the team straight away with some of these other players that potentially need an opportunity. So Ollie Pope.
Yeah, but there's two slots, Rich. There's 4 and 6. Yes. Stokes is at 5, we've said, and we've Roots at 3 at the moment. Mm-hmm. We've got him the second person into this lineup. Mm-hmm. His county stats are incredible. The last 4 years, he scored 1,743 runs at an average of 75.78, which is just a monstrosity of a number. 23% of his innings turn into a century, 38% are 50 and above. His balls per dismissal is 110. His average, we said, was 75. His strike rate is 68, is the highest out of anyone on this top 10 list. Mm-hmm. He's amazing. He's absolutely amazing. What's the difference? Now, I went down a well this week because I wanted to. I've got all my stats for international cricket on how they do against different bowler types. What do they average? How do they score the runs? And I wanted to know the same on county cricket, so I've been building that. Ollie Pope averages over 100 against spin in the last 2019 to 2022, not including this week. Not sure who he got out to this week, but not including this week. He averages over 100 against spin. Test match cricket, woeful against spin. Averages about 23, gets out a lot. I think this is what it comes down to. There's good bowling and there's bad bowling. He might have faced some dross to inflate those numbers. He might have faced wicket keepers with his team on 600 and they're just throwing people into bowl. But when he's facing Ravi Ashwin, Axar Patel, maybe a Mitch Santner, all right, I'm bigging up Mitch Santner way too much there. And Nathan Lyon, just someone that's better. There's a big difference, and it's not working out for him in Test match cricket, facing that level of opposition. You see him tinkering with his technique, where he's setting up, how he's going to play it, how he's batting outside off 4, whatever he's doing, and he's playing at balls on 6 stump. It's not quite right. What you're hoping for in county championship cricket, and you speak about it a lot, it's not the boom and bust situation where he scores 250 and then a couple of low scores, then another 200. You want to see more maturity, more control about his game. Feel like we may be heading there, but I really hope we've just not got another Mark Ramprakash on our hands where we constantly chop and change, constantly try, push him, doesn't work, goes back, scores more runs, comes back, doesn't score runs. It's going to be an interesting time for Ollie Pope.
Yeah, he will get opportunities because obviously the setup loves him. We keep saying it. The disclaimer at the moment is the setup is brand new. The whole situation is going to be new. The culture is going to be different. From everything down from Rob Key coming in through to the captain. We don't know whether he's going to get the opportunities or not. I would like to see him as more of an Ian Bell in England rather than a Ramprakash. And Ian Bell was somebody that was in and out of the team for a while, but then he established himself and became one of the most integral parts of that team, 100 plus test matches, etc. That's what I'm hoping for Ollie Pope. The talent's there. He just needs to have that consistency of performance from innings to innings to innings. The stats are great no matter what for Ollie Pope, but innings to innings to innings, that's where I want to see the consistency. And then he should be able to take that through to test level and be Ollie Pope, the county cricketer at test level. Something changes. There is that disconnect at the minute. He needs to just be more consistent. And the next man... Oh, go on. Yeah,
I was just going to say, put it in context. I can't think of anyone that started their career averaging 75 in first-class cricket. Or averaging 60 and 70. They're insane numbers. We're witnessing something pretty great. It might be a period of time where we look back and go, oh, you remember that time when Ollie Pope was still trying to make it in Test match cricket? We're 10 years down the line watching a guy with 10,000 Test match runs.
Yeah. How did he not just hit the ground running? We don't understand it. Look at him now. Yeah, exactly. So he's going to be in the conversation. He's there or thereabouts, isn't he? He just needs to make sure he's not taken over by anybody else. And if Root does stay at 3, then this man maybe slots in the middle order. But he is a number 3 predominantly, Rob. Josh Bohannon at Lancashire. Joshua James, how is he not known as JJ? I mean, he's missing opportunity there. 40 first-class appearances, 2,218 runs, a high of 231, just the 400 so far, 12 50s. When you stack those stats up against others, it's not quite banging the door down territory, is it, as the word we keep using in this podcast today. What does he have to do? Is he the next man up? Is he the next man up at 3 and 4, or just the next man up at 3? But he does feel like he is the next man to make these appearances for England.
Yeah. It's what have we seen? We've seen a guy in first-class cricket that goes out and does really well. 1,712 runs at an average of 51 since the start of 2019. 12 scores above a century. Performance plus rating of 157. He scores high on every single metric, like continuously consistent throughout, which I really like. And then you got the eye test. You watch him play in Australia with the England Lions. He was the best player on the pitch for England by an absolute country mile. You watch him score 230 first week of the season, and you're like, everything I'm seeing, everything I'm looking at is all working out pretty good. It doesn't feel, looking at this, there's that many holes in his game. He's just consistent throughout. Yes, he's a number 3. Could bat at 3, could bat at 4 for England. What we're saying here is we think the next player England should go for at 3 or 4 should be Josh Bohannon and make that work, because he's good enough. And think what he's training with, Rich. He's training with Hassan Ali, Jimmy Anderson, Matt Parkinson bowling at him. You're talking Ataki Mahmood. Sorry, I forgot about mentioning him, but you're training with that. That's international quality that he's being exposed to. And all that stuff wrapped up makes me go, if Lawrence is out, I want to see Bohannon come in.
Yeah, it feels like he's at a tipping point in his career, doesn't he? And you would hope that it just goes, to the moon, to use violence. So we shall see what happens with him. When you look at his season so far, he's had 19, then the 231, then 33. So he's not demanding it. That 231 has caught everyone's attention, but he's not shown that consistency across all 3 games. Only 1 innings in all of those 3 games. He got a 50, didn't he, against Australia A? But he didn't finish the season that well last year, even though he had a really good summer overall. So has he got that consistency? It's a question mark, isn't it? We think he's the next one, because part of this thought process is not just where we think. We're not just creating a fantasy team here. We think that England also believe that this guy. So we're weighting it on what we think alongside what we think England think as well. We think he is the next man at 3 or 4. If it was number 6, I'm not sure Josh Bohannon would be the next one up. I think we'd be looking at a different player. I think it'd be more like a Harry Brook or a Ben Duckett or somebody else, a different dynamic type of player, even a James Bracey, perhaps. But maybe if the gloves got involved there. But we shall see. But Josh Bohannon is the man we got at 3. So that takes us to the incumbents, Rob. I'm going to start with number 6. I'm going to start with Jonny Bairstow. I think Jonny Bairstow is where Jonny Bairstow should be. The sneaky old Johnny, he is 32 and a half, as we used to say when we were very young. 83 test matches, 4,801 runs, 167 not out, 822. 12,500 first-class runs as well, with 26 centuries. He's incredible. He is finally, it feels like, settling into a role. Don't move him. Don't give him the gloves. Leave him alone. That's what I want to see, and I hope that he has a really good run again over the next 12 months.
Yep, he's 80 test matches into his career or something like that? 83. He's not as far off 100 test matches, a sneaky 100 test matches, because he's been dropped so many times. But we keep going back to we ruined him a little bit after his incredible 2016, where he scored 1,500 runs, one of the highest amount of runs ever scored from an English player. So that's how good he can be. He's had a really good run against Australia, real grit, determination over my dead body, scored fantastic runs, scored runs well again in the West Indies, faded away a little bit. I'm interested to see how he goes against New Zealand, but I feel this might be the best we get of Jonny Bairstow. We might have a 2 or 3 year run here where it's towards the end of his test career, and we go, cool, Jonny Bairstow, great test match cricketer. He averaged 35 and he batted at number 6 or number 7 for England. If you average 35 at 6 or 7 for England, I'm happy. The problem is when your openers are averaging 28, 27, your number 3's averaging 20. That's the problem we've got.
Yeah, absolutely. So let's lock in Jonny Bairstow at 6. Let's not tinker and move him anymore. He's battered too many positions in this England lineup. Leave him where he needs to be. Ben Stokes will have a great lieutenant there with him to help him on his way as he takes on the reins for England. So the other man in position at the minute is Dan Lawrence. 11 Test match appearances so far, just the 551 runs, high score of 91, an average of 29, 4 half centuries. It's not the start he would have wanted, but he did perform a little bit better when he got the opportunity against West Indies, unused in the Ashes, as we remember. Coming up on 100 first-class matches, 5,237 runs, a high score of 161, 37.4 average, 1,126 50s. Dan Lawrence, I think, is a very talented young player. I think when you look at the stats, I wonder if he was forced into the setup a little bit early. At the time, it seemed a logical selection because he was playing really well last summer or two. But I just wonder if he was forced in a little bit early and he maybe just needs that little bit of time in county cricket to develop his game a little bit more before we find him back in the Test setup. He is the man in position at the moment, but if he's batting at 4 in this first Test, I think I'm going to be a little bit surprised.
Yeah, my problem comes down to him. He hasn't scored enough hundreds, but it's not just he's not scored enough hundreds since the start of 2019. 46 innings, Rich. There's only 2 centuries. That's 39% worse than league average. That means every 4% of his innings he's turned into a century. But his 50s per game is 20% better than league average. So he gets a score, but he's not learnt the art of converting them. Yeah, he got 150 at the start of last season on playing shots off one knee. It looks amazing. But there just hasn't been quite enough consistency and conversion to warrant the number 4 slot to me. But he's number 1 on this because he is the number 4 in the lineup. He's number 4 for England. He's the starter. And we're trying to work out who comes next. He has got a hamstring injury that may linger around. Hamstring injuries carry, they just keep going and going. Will he be the number 4 come the end of the summer? I hope so. I'd love to sit there and watch Dan Lawrence go and smack it around and play some wonderful shots. Do I think he's the right player to bat at 4? No, I don't. I think essentially, we've got different types of players in this top 10 list that we came up with. Harry Brook, Ben Duckett, James Vince all score at like 65, 66, 67 strike rate. Just incredible players. Score very quickly, very attacking. They feel like a natural number 6 in this England lineup to me. And then you've got players like Pope, who scores quick, but is more technically savvy than them. Josh Bohannon, who will come in, he'll be a natural number 4. James, it's an interesting lineup because the guys that are scoring runs in county championship cricket are generally doing it really well and doing it really fast. But that's not translating into the Test match arena, and that's what we've got with Dan Lawrence. So I feel your number 4 needs to be a better bat than someone that can just score quickly. And I'm not saying these are bad bats because they're definitely not. They're England contention for a job most people would give a left arm for, maybe even the right arm on a Tuesday. So it just there's different types of players. You're trying to fill a 4, you're trying to fill a 6. And I think just Bohannon's just a natural 3 or 4 in the lineup compared to some others that I'd like to see more towards the middle of the order.
Exactly. It's a little bit more difficult to kind of really rank these where they will be because it's probably 2 different rankings, all depending on where Root and Stokes decide to bat in this lineup. Stokes might go to 6, Stokes might want to go up to 4. I don't think he will go up to 4, but there are conversations that need to be had. So that's where we are, Rob. I think we just need to mention 1 or 2 other names. Dawid Malan is an honourable mention. We spoke about him. He's played for England. He's playing well for Yorkshire again now. 2 other players I just want to mention, and you might have somebody else, but Sam Hain of Warwickshire is 26, 5,000 first-class runs, 36, 11 average 1100s. 1 other man, an ascending player, 21-year-old Jamie Smith. He can also take the gloves as well. Only 29 matches into his career, 1,600 runs, a high of 234 not out in the last week, 500s already and 450s. That's 2 other players, different ages, different points in their career, but they're 2 other players that I think deserve honourable mentions. Any more to wrap it up, or do you think they're probably the only
Liam Livingston ones? I've seen banding around a lot in people's England 11. Liam Livingston in county championship cricket over the last 4 years, 713 runs at an average of 32, 1 century. I've got him a performance plus rating of 99, so he's about league average. I think if he gave you the quality of bowling Moeen Ali used to give you, then I'm almost looking at a shoe-in where you've got a game-changing bat, because I think he can be that player. He can go and change games. And you get quality bowling. His bowling's not good enough for Test match cricket, from what I've seen. I'm not entirely sold that it's good enough for T20 international cricket consistently. I think he's the sort of like Glenn Maxwell, where you'll get 1 over, maybe 2 overs out of him if it's going really well. It might
sometimes.
So he gets a mention. Joe Denley should get an honourable mention. Ex-England batted 3. We mentioned him in the number 3 pod. He's a league average player over the last 4 years. So Tom Kohler-Cadmore, league average. Who's batting above league average? Jordan Cox, 21-year-old. He's got a 107 performance plus rating from Kent. He's doing really well. His balls per dismissal is really good, and his 50 plus per innings is really good. His average is 30, which pulls everything down just a little bit.
He's a young guy as well, isn't he? He's a young guy, Jordan Cox, and he really did. When he first came into the scene, he wasn't overawed by coming in, because it was century after century, wasn't it, when he first got into the team. So he's another really good shout as an honourable mention. Yeah,
good shout. Nick Gubbins, a 113 performance plus rating over the last 4 years. Obviously had a really big week, and you're a really big fan.
Yeah, but people like Gubbins, though, as good as he's starting to do again, I think he deserves to be in contention at some point if that form starts translating into consistent. With that class starts going into consistent form, he needs to be part of the conversation. But more so as an opener and as a number 3. I don't really consider him as a middle order player. Same for 1 or 2 others.
One person who is ultimate middle order and ultimate England watch, but not quite there, David Beddingham, has got an incredible record: 1,583 runs, an average of 52, 4 centuries in the last 3.5 seasons, plus going to South Africa franchise cricket and topping the run scoring charts over there. He's not England eligible. I've got him number 9 in terms of performance ranking.
Yeah, minor detail. At the moment, he can't play for England. But in the future, who knows?
Yeah. There's a few wicket keepers on the list that rank really high, but we'll touch on them in the wicket keepers list. Sam Billings, really good. Ben Brown, really good. Ben Folkes, really good. And young Derbyshire Brook Guest has made an appearance on my spreadsheet in the top 48 rows. So fair play to him. But, we'll talk about wicket keepers another day. So that's it from me, Rich. I'll share my screen for everyone watching from home, because I know everyone likes looking at Excel. But it just gives you an indication of how we're ranking players and who's doing really well. Essentially, anyone that's below... Zach Crawley's on this list as well, with 15 innings in the middle order from number 3 to number 6, which is quite an interesting stat. So he was not a very good performer when it came to opening the batting in county championship cricket. And now you're in a position where he's not a very good player in the middle order. In fact, he's county championship average with a 100.99 performance plus rating. Daniel Bell Drummond makes the top 20 list in terms of performance ranking with a 118. He's obviously started this year really hot with 2 centuries. His average is good. The only thing letting him down a little bit has been the fails. He's just above league average in terms of getting out for less than 10. Sam Hain, you touched on being a good shout. Sam Hain's problem has been 100 conversion. He's 25% worse at converting to centuries than league average. And same with Lyndon James making a young appearance, the 23-year-old Notts player. Good average, good balls per dismissal, gets to 50 well, but not going on and getting the big score. And one for you here, Rich. One for you. Because you put him on England Watch by accident on tweet the other day.
No, it wasn't. It was deserved.
Stephen Croft, number 8th on the performance ranking list. He's 37 years old, but over the last 4 years, there's over 1,000 runs. And he makes it look good. He averages 46 during that time, and he bats very well.
I'm going to mop up a couple of points. Stephen Croft, how he wasn't ever really considered for anything is a little bit of a surprise to me, because he was such a good player. I mean, he's getting on to his late 30s now, but he just strikes me as one of them players that maybe a few years ago, and I'm talking quite a few years ago, he's a sort of profile that would have probably played for England in one format or another. Nice player. Who was the other one I was just going to quickly mention that you brought up there? Zach Crawley, that's it. I think that's a really, really important person to mention, and probably a good note to end on. Zach Crawley is a current England opener. We're not convinced he's an England opener. Is he a number 3? I'm not convinced he's an England number 3, Rob. But if the setup like him as much, they're going to try and find a role for him. What does Zach Crawley want to be? Does he want to be an opener? Does he want to be a number 3? Or does he want to be a middle order player? I think he could end up being a number 4 or a number 5 for England in this team. Maybe number 4 is probably the perfect role for him. Really talented player. I mean, you don't score big double hundreds in a Test match level unless you're talented.
Yep, against a good Pakistan team.
Exactly.
As well, mate,
so he deserves a good mention in this as well. But I think that's all. I think we've included everyone we needed to include. There's all-rounders out there that could be mentioned today, but they're going to be all-rounders. There's wicket-keepers out there, but they're going to be mentioned as wicket-keepers.
One last point. Samit Patel, there's a reason he's in the commentary box for red ball cricket, mate. He averages 20 with the bat over the last 4 years. He's pretty much
39 now. No one. Yeah, he has. I mean, he doesn't play red ball cricket anymore. He's only got a white ball contract, so that's a. I'm shocked you've pointed him out there. He's quality. He was talking the other day about he scored a couple of hundreds in a weekend, just about playing club cricket. The man's still got. He's class all over.
But yeah, that'll do us. So we're through the batting pretty much. We've got our wicketkeeper to go. We've got all-rounders to go, and then we'll break it down between pace bowlers, fast bowlers, and spin bowlers, and work our way through that. So if there's anyone you think we've missed, or anyone that needs discussion, or if our orders all skew whiffing, you think, hey, it's a bit wonky donkey, you need to be thinking this guy, let us know. You can catch us on Twitter at Leading Edge Pod. We're going to catch you guys next time.